knowing that it is only God expressing right here and right now through each and every one of us, and that we have come together today to just grow, to learn, to connect, to share in this very precious time. And so as we breathe and release anything that has come before, we just settle in and give God the space to be through each and every one of us. I'm so very grateful for this. And so it is.
Yes.
Okay, so hi, I'd like to welcome everybody to be here, and just want to let you know that this is recorded. And so if you have an issue with being seen or on the recording or whatever, just know that your participation means that you agree that this can be shared. If you need to switch your video, then in the upper right-hand corner, there's 3 dots, and you can just stop the video, your version of the video at any time. But Connie does post this out to the WhatsApp group. All right, Miss Connie, now you can go forward.
Good. Well, good morning, everyone. Let's start this meeting off with spiritual mind treatment. And I'm going to ask Reverend Eileen Brownell to open up our time together with spiritual mind treatment. Is that okay, Eileen?
So everybody just come to that place of the center within, taking a nice deep breath, knowing that that indeed is the breath of God, moving in as and through each and every one of us. And we come together in this morning and in this moment, supporting Connie in her journey, supporting her wholeness and the love divine that is in each and every cell of her being. And so we come together not only to support, but to learn about this journey and to learn how we may support and assist her in each and every step that she takes. And I give thanks for the many people who are here today and those that will hear it on the internet, knowing that each and every one of them likewise support the issue and this journey. And so I give thanks for the opportunity to come together. I give thanks for the joy and wonder that Connie is. I give thanks for Michelle, who continues to support Connie in these efforts as we move forward together. And so I just release this. I let it go, knowing it is already done in mind, in love, and in law. And we say together, and so
it is. Thank you. That was beautiful, Reverend Eileen. Okay, do you want to open it up, Michelle, or am I? To conversation.
You wanted to talk about the 3 parts in your revelations about the soul?
Thank you. So I'm going to start by saying, well, every day is different. I never know from one day to the next how I'm going to be or who I'm going to be or what I'm like. It's all in flux. So right now, what is happening is I've had my 2nd chemo last Saturday, and I have my final chemo this Saturday. And it's been a journey. It's I'll talk more about that in a minute. But what I want to say up front is one of the side effects right now is my mind. And so I will talk to whatever I talk to, but I have difficulty processing information. So when the nurse came in and I was trying to work with you, like I couldn't process. I couldn't figure out what was happening. And so that frustrated her, frustrated me. And that's just the nature of what it is, because my brain is not processing properly. And so part of it is an effect from the chemo. But my doctor was explaining to me yesterday, he said that's only part of it, because the other part is because I really haven't eaten any nutrition since the beginning of March. So that's 3 months. And so they've got me on food supplement, but it's only maintenance. It doesn't rebuild anything. And your brain needs certain foods and certain feels, and mine hasn't gotten it for a long time. So we will know that can come back, but right now that's where I am. So if I say something and it doesn't sound quite right, Michelle will probably jump in because she's been with me every day and knows more of what's going on. So, and like I said before, these calls are raw and real. So I'm not hiding. I'm not, to do my work. I'm just out there. So I really appreciate the support to do this differently and to really have those deep conversations about what is going on and not trying to fix anything, but just I'm allowing myself to just really surrender into what is happening without trying to treat it away because, most of you are science of mind people. And I think sometimes we do that. We've got this wonderful tool and we can change conditions. And so we do. But one of the things I've been realizing about that is maybe the condition is there for a reason. And we treat it away. Are we ever going to get to what that is? So I'm trying a new experiment about not treating away the condition and just allowing them to be, and how can I be with it? And what is that experience trying to tell me? So that led me into this week. There's, at last week's talk, I was talking about for a couple of weeks, I've been talking about how spirit and body has separated. So I'm residing up here on the spiritual plane, and my body's down here in the manifestation plane that the doctors and nurses and all of the illnesses happening on. And I'm really removed from it. So all of this stuff that goes on, it's like I'm not attached to it. I can, it can all go on and I might feel it physically, but I'm not experiencing it. Does that make any sense? Like it doesn't upset me. It's just, well, this is what is, and just go with what is. It's very, for me anyway, I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but it's an odd experience. And so then it came to me, I've been asking the question since last week. Okay, so if we take our science of mind teaching symbol in a circle with the V through it and the two lines, the top is spirit, the middle is soul, and the body is manifestation. And so when we are residing in spirit and the energy comes down through the soul, so spirit is our word, our intention. So, I consciously have an intention. It moves down through the soul or the law that is the doer that knows how to execute spirit's direction and then become the manifestation. So it's not three separate things. It is one thing. It is the process of how it works. So in my process, I was thinking, okay, so if I'm up here in spirit and down here in body are both handles, what the heck is the soul doing? What's the soul's job? So what came to me is the soul is our memories. That's our feeling part. That's where our emotions are. So all of the stuff that has been coming up, I've been talking about like body memories of stuff that has been in my body since birth or even before. And I believe we all have that. I believe that we all have our traumas that maybe we don't deal with or are very, very traumatic, and we bury them, and they get buried in the tissues of our body. And they sit there. And then we start getting sick. It's all of those pockets of toxicity. So that's sort of my thought of it. So in this process, what the soul is doing is it's cleaning that out. All of the race memory that I got from my life, all of the trauma, all of that stuff is coming up for healing. I've got stuff that is coming up from birth, from childhood, and trust me, I'm sticking to this lifetime. I figure I got enough in this lifetime. I don't need to delve into any other. So I'm focusing on this lifetime. But in that place, it seems like as the soul is cleaning up all of those memories, I'm taking that back up into spirit, healing it from the spiritual level, and then it's coming down and manifesting in my body as a different body, a different experience in my body, which on some of the earlier calls, I think I mentioned that it feels like I can actually feel my cells changing at a DNA level. Like I feel it internally. And so I believe that's what's happening. And so I got an email last week from a woman by the name of Paula Langus Ryan, and she is a unity minister, and she was supposed to have come over for the conference, but she didn't. She's been doing work in Kenya for about 10 years, not like just a couple of hours away from me. And then she found out we've been there together this whole time. Well, she comes back and forth, but we didn't know about that we were both in Kenya. So anyway, now we do. And so she was on the call last week, and she got a message. Just a minute. I want to just read it to you, or part of what she said. Oh, where is it? Come on. There we go. So she said, I wanted to share the insights I had as you were talking last week. I had a vision of your body as being put up on cinder blocks and your spiritual self being lifted up like an engine hoisted out of the body of a car. Now that's, like I said, she's been in Kenya. That's how the mechanics do it. You know, they literally put cinder blocks and your car's up there on blocks on the side of the road. That's the grass. So spirit is upgrading your engine. And what's happening is happening so that your body can't interfere with the spiritual work being done. Your spirit and body will be reintegrated, and you will be set loose to race around the world in your own spiritual Grand Prix. And that feels like exactly what I'm talking about. That it's been set, like I'm having a major overhaul. So that major overhaul, all of those memories, all of that, you know, if you've got a car, you drain all of the oil out, you're rebuilding the engine, you're cleaning it up. That's what's happening to my body. And so the visualization that I get around that, and the timeline I got is it's going to happen like by the end of the month. That all of that processing, when I come out of here, I literally will have no attachment to any other beliefs I've ever had. It'll be like a new baby being born with a fresh, clean slate of memories. And that's happening because the work that I've been called to do in the world is my body can't handle it because my body's broken down. So in order for me to do this work in the world, I needed a new body because I decided, yes, I could transition and I could do this work in another body, but I'm excited about doing it right now, in this life, in this time, with these people, in this body. So that meant that my body had to rejuvenate. So this week I was remembering that I totally forgot about 30 years ago, before I even discovered the Center for Spiritual Living, I was doing some work with a man by the name of Alexander Everett. And he's transitioned now, but he's commonly known as the father of the personal development field. So all of those courses like Context and S and Landmark, all of the people that started all of those courses all started by studying with Alexander. He's sort of known as the father of the personal development movement. And he was my first spiritual teacher. And I remember going to a retreat. I think it was in Quadra Island off the coast of Vancouver. And we were on a week-long silent meditation retreat. And of course, I'd never done anything like that at that time. It was a new experience for me. So one of the exercises we did at this retreat was a timeline for our life. So this was 30 years ago. I did this timeline. And my timeline at that time was to 130 years. And the message I got is I have something to do in the world, and it's going to take me that long to do it. So I need to live to 130. And so I remember at that time making the decision that if I was going to live to 130 years old, I wanted to do it in a body that was healthy. So that's when I became vegetarian. I became kind of a health nut, really focusing on the body a lot. And lo and behold, 30 years later, my body falls apart. It's like, what the heck? And then I had that memory. And then I thought, wait a minute. I'm turning 65 this year. I'm halfway there. I'm only halfway there. And I've got another half of my life to live. So that's why my body broke down now, because I need to have a new body that's going to last another 65 years. So whatever, whether you believe that or not, that's what came this week. So that's why this is happening in my body now. And I've had people say, well, you don't have to take that long, you can. But again, as I was saying before, to me right now, that's feeling like spiritual bypass. So I'm just listening to what Spirit is saying, like just be in the pain, be in the memories, stop doing, and anybody that knows me knows I'm a doer, to stop doing and just be. Just be with whatever comes up and whatever is. So my soul's journey is the emotional journey. So I truly am working on all three levels, spirit, soul, and body, but simultaneously, all at the same time. For me, it's always been in the past, like I have something I want to work on, I do it on the spiritual plane, and then I let it go, and I let law do its own work, and then I have my manifestation at the end. But what's interesting is it's not happening sequentially. It's like I'm working on all three levels all at the same time. Powerful experience. The insights that are coming out of that is just, oh my goodness. So that's that piece. Does anybody have any questions about that or comments or anything?
If you do, just simply raise your hand and we can acknowledge you and
Kathleen has her hand up.
Okay. Kathleen.
You're on, Kathleen.
Reverend Connie, when so everybody knows that I underwent surgery and chemo and radiation for breast cancer.
So we were kind of doing it.
Yeah.
I'm shutting up.
When I was in that chemo place, I felt that separation too, that body needed to be in its creaturehood, in its organic. And I really related it to how animals will just allow the life energy to heal the body, and my use of mind and anything that might interfere with that, just get out of the way. So I relate. Thank you for sharing, Connie.
Thank you for sharing that, Kathleen, because I think it's a fascinating phenomenon. Because I know Michelle often says, she said, we can experience physical pain and we tough it out, but we have one moment of emotional pain and we're running for the hills. But I find that with physical pain as well, right? Often it's like, well, let's do something to numb it. We have this aversion to feeling pain. But where I'm kind of at with that now, instead of covering up or running for it or doing the things I would normally do. And trust me, I am on copious amounts of morphine. So I get that my body is being numb. So I do get that I have that. But to still just allow the process without trying to stop it, or to say, well, it hurts, it's pain, so therefore it's bad, so therefore I need to get rid of it. Anybody else other than me ever go there? You know, and we think, okay, well then that's not spirit. But the truth is, it's all spirit. Everything's spirit. The pain is spirit. Everything is spirit. So why would we cut off part of spirit expression just because it doesn't feel good? Because I think we get the idea that if it feels good, it's good. If it doesn't feel good, it's bad. So we got to get rid of it. And we spend, I mean, that's what addictions are about. And we spend all of this time not to feel the pain. So I'm sinking into the pain. Like Kathleen said, it's like, it is what it is. And what I'm finding is that pain has a lot of messages. There's stuff there to learn from being in that as well. And so I'm just allowing that learning to come up. Like, what do I need to know about this? What does this mean? And I don't know who said this, but I remember a saying one time, was probably Carol. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. So we may experience pain, but we don't have to suffer. We only suffer because we've made a judgment that the pain is bad and we should only ever feel good. Because isn't it true? We pretty much live in a society that is focused on feeling good. So our entire life is about looking good, feeling good, you know, and not necessarily those of us that are doing spiritual work. We shift some of that. But I'm talking about race consciousness as a whole. That's kind of the way it is. So I'm having a different experience of that, just really sinking into it and being okay with it and getting the messages out of it. It's really quite a beautiful thing. And I'm not suffering. So sometimes I talk to some of my support people and, you know, they hear about the side effects of this chemo, and trust me, it has been over the top. If the doctors expect one way of it showing up, they found out that my way will be in the opposite direction to the extreme, the other direction. So all of my reactions are extreme. And then somebody said, well, we could treat to make it less as extreme. And again, I say, why would I do that? If this is my experience and it needs to be extreme, why would I do that? So in my mind, I'm kind of calling that spiritual bypass. Like, how many times have I done that? Made a judgment that something shouldn't be there, and we treated it, and we do. It's right in our Declaration of Principles. We know how to change conditions, and we do change conditions. But I'm getting a different understanding of that. Like, why would I do that? So yeah, it's quite profound experience.
So Connie, we do have a question in the chat, but before I share the question, because I'm speaking, I just wanted to share. Right now, I'm facilitating a book study on the Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and chapter 11 is entitled "Paying the Price of Freedom," and I just want to read the opening line. It said, "One of the essential requirements for true spiritual growth and deep personal transformation is coming to peace with pain."
Thank you.
With pain.
Pat, that's brilliant. And the Michael Singer, the guy that wrote that book, sent me a whole box of his books over to Kenya that are sitting there to do. I'm going to do a. I'm going to get it from you, your curriculum, when I go back to teach it. I haven't even read the book yet, but they're all in Kenya. So that's so cool. That excites me. Yeah.
So we have a question in the chat from, I might pronounce your name wrong, Flaminia, yeah. And she was asking, have you encountered the right nurses and doctors who support this whole journey beside the one you mentioned, are they able
Yes.
to dive into your experience?
Absolutely. Not all of the nurses. There's a couple nurses that have, but both of my doctors, for sure, they sent me a psychologist. Well, I talked about him last week. Him for school, and the breast cancer spiritual director. She's like enthralled with this. So I have so much support. Plus, like everybody around me in the environment. I think it's brilliant. So yes, yeah, great experience.
Well, and Connie, I think another thing that you wanted to talk about that relates to this actually is that even the nurses are saying it's just really strange. Like no one responds like you do because you're always grateful. Like here you are with all of this, and even now having to have tubes in your feet with the draining. And I talked to this, and you're like, I am so happy. This is like the best day. Like you're always finding, as you say, the gold in the situation.
Absolutely. It's been fascinating because I've noticed myself that I'm changing, like how I think, how I talk. And I am so filled with love and with gratitude, and just gratitude that is just overflowing and positive. And the negative stuff, like, it doesn't even touch me. And the nurses comment on it, and the doctors, everybody comments on it. And, even people that have been talking to me, it's like, wow, how did you get there? Because something has happened in me, and I truly am not the person I was before. I don't even think how I used to think, and these words come out of my mouth, and I think, really? One of my things, and Michelle and Paddle laughed too, because they both have been in classes with me, and anybody else that's in class with me will think this funny, because my big thing that I've dealt with a lot is patience and defensiveness, and it's gone. And diplomacy. I didn't ever think I was a very diplomatic person anyway. I don't do politics. I'm too much of a straight shooter for that, or was in my past. But what I'm realizing is now I've got diplomacy, and it's just like I don't have to think about it. It's just there. It's like, where did I learn that skill? And it's like truly, I'm changing at the core who I am without even trying. And all that personal development work I did for years, and spiritual development, and really all of that was absolutely necessary to bring me where I am today, for sure. Yeah, interesting process. And the nurses come in here and the doctors come in here, and I'm like all day long I'm praising them, thanking them for their service. And it's sincere. Like, it's not just lip service. It's not something you think, well, I should be saying this because, I'm a nice spiritual person and we're supposed to be nice. Has anybody ever done that besides me? I think, I just want to go smack you upside the head, but I got to be nice because I'm your minister. Anybody other than me ever have those thoughts? But I'm not there anymore. It's not there. Fascinating.
You were going to tell them about your mantra about breathing air.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. So for about the last 5 years or so, I have been having a lot of intestinal issues, like, not being able to process food properly. I've been a vegetarian for 30 years because that's at Alexander's retreat where I decided I needed to live to 130. That's when I went vegetarian. And we're talking about a girl raised in ranch country, Alberta, on meat and potatoes. And so my family really wasn't on board with this whole vegetarian thing. And So where was I going? I lost the loop, Michelle.
That everything, you kept having things taken away from you, and so you said at one point you would be.
Yes. So over the last 5 years, I went vegetarian 30 years ago, and now everything else is going. Like, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I'm allergic to this, I'm allergic to that. And all of this stuff keeps coming off my diet. And I remember hearing myself say several times, if I keep this up, I'll just be breathing air. Like, facetiously, right? But the universe doesn't know a joke. So guess what? I am here in the hospital. I have not eaten anything for 3 months. Well, 2 months for sure. No food. Before it was just like, I call it pablum. Like, I could only eat like blended soups or something. And so, but now, the last couple of days, because of this other swelling that was happening, my body had a reaction last week where it swelled up. I gained 15 kg of water in a week and a half. I was like a balloon, and the doctor's now draining that off, so it's better. But I was in severe distress then, because I couldn't even breathe. It was pressing up on my esophagus, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't swallow because I was so swollen that it was so painful. If I swallowed even my own saliva, I would have these chest pains radiate. It felt like I was having a heart attack. And as a matter of fact, the doctor was a bit concerned that I would, because, so they took me off of everything. I couldn't even put an ice cube. I couldn't even swallow my own saliva. So one of the nurses rigged up this wand like you have in the dentist's office so I can keep suctioning this stuff out of my mouth. And so what I realized is I'm literally breathing air. So, holy smokes, I got to be really right about that. It was a joke, but it manifested in that way. We got to really be careful what we're putting out there. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
But you just almost said something that you were talking about how we always get to be right.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, thank you. That's good. Right. That's where I was going to go with that. So one of the things I often teach my students in the class is you always get to be right. Who likes being right about what you believe? I think we all do. We're living in a paradigm where we've learned to play the right-wrong game really well. And we do that. That's where the defensiveness comes in. It's like, well, if I'm right, you must be wrong. And then we try to prove our rightness. And in proving our rightness, as soon as you're proving and you're defensive, well, then the other person has to defend their position. And here we're in that loop, right? And so we need to remember it doesn't matter what it is we're putting out there. We get to be right. Whatever is in your life, you said yes to. You were right about that. So I was right about breathing air. I got to be right. So it's kind of a neat game to play with yourself. If you've manifested something, to ask yourself, what do I want to be right about? What in here am I insisting that that's the way it is? And just see what Spirit tells you about that. Interesting. Did that make sense?
Nancy would like you to talk a little bit more about changing without even trying. Changing without even trying.
Isn't that fascinating? Because change for me has always been an effort. Does anybody else ever have issues with change? I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I remember taking a class with Reverend Kay Patrick a number of years ago. I worked for her, my first assignment as a minister, as assistant minister here in Edmonton. And she had this program that she taught called the Prosperity Two-Step. It's a great class. Anyway, in there she says, change, even minute change, takes effort. And so change, because we get in our own way because of our habits, right? And our habits are hard to break. And so, you know, we start in thought, but sometimes it takes a while for the body to catch up. And it feels like efforting. It feels like making any change. Does anybody else have, is that making sense? That you have to like kind of work to change? Because as we do something over and over, it becomes a habit. It just becomes natural. And changing that, well, what do they say? Even 21 days, right? There's something about that. To make any change, you have to do something for 21 days. So there's this whole idea, like, it's a big deal. You know, it's not just going to happen like that. And so what I was saying is, it feels like the changes I'm having, they're happening innately at a DNA level. Like, I'm not efforting to change. I'm not saying what needs to be changed. It just is. And I find myself acting in different ways, talking things that are totally alien to what my nature would have been before. And so maybe we've got it wrong about change. Maybe when our soul is clear about its journey, maybe it doesn't have to be hard. And again, maybe it's like pain. Maybe we just go with it. Have you ever had the experience of wanting to make a change, and then you're trying to make the change, but you get in your own way? That's sort of, it's like, that's what it feels like. I've surrendered to it and I'm not getting in my own way. I'm not resisting the change. I think that's it. It's this whole process about, you know, stepping into our vulnerability, just being raw and real and open with what is happening in every moment, just the way it is. And that's organic, because I never know what that's going to be. So I never know how I'm going to show up, but I didn't even make a decision to do that. So I think it was a higher calling, like my higher self called all of this into place for this to happen, because I don't remember ever making a conscious decision to do something like this. But the changes that are necessary for me to be the person I need to be, to do the work I'm supposed to be doing, the changes that need to happen are happening innately. So then that tells me that it was always there. I mean, we've always all got all of the qualities of spirit right where we are. And so it's always been there, but I've never expressed it this way before. And now it's just like, without even trying, it's happening. Interesting.
Dylan was saying in the chat that it's remarkable that you've been able to block out all negativity and remain positive throughout it all, especially with your personal journey and what's happening in the world globally. And he just talks about that maybe he's been watching a little bit too much news lately. And I'd say, yeah, Dylan, you probably have, but that's a whole other story. And so his question is, how have you been able to stay mentally strong through these times?
Same thing. I don't have to do, it's just there. It's just there. The positivity is just there. I don't have any negative thoughts. I really don't. I don't loop on them. Oh, and I can speak to that right now about looping on something negative. So I had an experience yesterday. It was an old childhood trauma that came up from my childhood. And I found myself revisiting it again. And, you know, we've all got these things that we work on throughout our life, right? And we think, oh my God, that again, I dealt with this. Like, go away, I'm done with this. And again, tend to do a little spiritual bypass with it. Say, well, I've already done my work. I'm done with that. Let me just treat and move on to something else. But my realization yesterday, when it came up again, and I found myself obsessing about it and looping in my brain about it. And every conversation I had with people, I would be telling them this story. And so I would say to like my kids or Michelle or anybody I was talking to, okay, I'm done. When I start looping on this, Like I'm not telling the story anymore. I'm done. And I kept telling myself that, but it kept coming up and kept coming up. And I just called it obsessing, and I wanted to stop it. But what I realized when I didn't stop it and I went into it, the learning that came out of it was profound, and it's now gone. So instead of running away from it or saying, oh, well, I've already dealt with it, because I think if it's coming up, you need to deal with it at another level. Like there's something else going on. So I just think it's more about just allowing and surrendering, and finally caught myself enough to say, okay, stop. There's something here for you. Because I couldn't stop obsessing. But maybe it's not obsessing. Maybe that's the Spirit's way of saying, pay attention. There's something here for you. And we don't, we really don't have to go looking for issues to solve. They kind of just show up when they need to.
Yeah.
Donna was sharing a thought that you're just having to be. Just having to be, other than just like being in your body or whatever, but you're just having to be. And that's kind of what you just spoke to right now, is that we don't really need to go looking for things, because they will show up for us. We just have to notice that it's showing up.
So my encouragement is, if you're obsessing about something and it's something that you've dealt with all of your life and it keeps coming up and it keeps coming up, don't treat it away. Or we say, well, I just need to go. I just need to get over it. I just need to let it go. But what if you don't need to get over it? What if we can't get over anything? What if we need to go through it? There's something there for you to learn. So just go, allow yourself to go, surrender into it and see what it's going to tell you. That's been working for me immensely. Because the learning I had yesterday out of that was very good. Yeah. I was going to say something else, but it's gone.
The thing that I wrote down here, Connie, that you talked about a lot yesterday as you were going through that situation, is that in order for you to do the work in the world, it's about learning to go through things rather than around things.
Yes. Yes. And really go deeper into it. Allow yourself to go deeper into it instead of going around it or saying, I need to get rid of it, or I've already done it, or all the stories we tell ourselves. Is just surrender, allow yourself to surrender into it and just say, okay, let me feel these feelings. What was I feeling? What were the thoughts I was having? And ask, why is this up now? Why is this coming up?
Can you speak to why? I mean, because you're one of the few people we know who are going out and trying to bring this understanding to different cultures. So why is this concept important for global work? Not just your own personal work, but how does it relate to global work?
I think it goes back to this idea of vulnerability again. Just really being real. And how it relates is with this COVID stuff that's going on, we are having to learn to be different in the world. And we have to learn to be more vulnerable and connect with each other in a different way, and connect with ourselves, connect with spirit. Instead of being so outward focused on, having this, growing a church, buying a house, getting the kids, all of the stuff we do in our doingness, is we need to let go of the doingness and just be. What is happening today? What is the real meaning of what's going on? How can I touch something really at my core? How can I just be in this moment with whatever it is, whether it's immense joy and I don't want to call it good or bad. So we say immense joy, so that's good. Immense pain, that's bad. But none of it is good or bad. It's all God. Everything is spirit. Everything. Every experience, every thought, everything, it's all there for your highest good. Look for the good. That's the only thing I've been doing is looking. That's like my mantra. What is good here? What is good? Because if it's there, there has to be something good. But if we don't look at it, look for it, because you get what you look for. If we're not looking for it, we're not going to see it. So start looking for the good. Ask the question, what is good in this? Because it has to be. You're having the experience. Without calling it, without judging it, it just is what it is. And one of the things, I think most of the people on here hopefully are science and mind people, but one of the things we say is, is all God. Well, it is. So then why do we say, well, it's all God, but not this, because that's bad? Well, that doesn't make sense to me anymore. If it's all God, it's all God. Period. So who's judging it? Who's judging what's good and bad? So it's to get out of that judgmental mind and just don't look for the bad, because trust me, we've gotten really good for looking for the bad things, right? Well, it's time to stop that. It's time to look for the good. And even in COVID, I look for the good every day. What is good out of this today? I'm not looking at the bad. I'm only focusing on the good, and more good comes out all the time. So it's really about where you put your intention and what you're doing.
So I think, though, in terms of taking that into the world, because one of the things you've said is that, let's see, like to do the work in Africa, to do the work in Kenya, to do the work in different countries, it's not about going there and being intellectual and being able to.
Thank you, Michelle. I remember where I was. I know where you're going with that. See, I share with Michelle every day because I need somebody to remind me of my insights, because she's recording everything. So globally, you were saying, like, what is this globally? So I believe that my personal belief right now around COVID is that the human race actually called it in for our healing. And if we hadn't have called it in, we were headed for mass destruction. I mean, the planet, our lives, human life for sure, because we're so disconnected and there's so much fear in the world, so much fear and anger and shame. And it's so deep that I think we called this in so we can learn about it, so we can be together, learn to be together in a new way. So what's coming up for me is vulnerability. The way to do that is very, very vulnerable. And that's what led me to do this publicly, is just like, I feel like I'm stripped naked. I'm out there, and half the time I don't even know if what I'm saying makes sense. It makes sense to me, but just really diving deep into what comes up. And so I think we attracted COVID because it's like the giant stop button for the entire planet, because it has leveled the playing field for everybody. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, what you have or what you don't have. Everybody's having the same experience. They might not like it, but they're all having the same, a similar experience. And what that's doing is it's bringing us closer together. You've noticed, like, the planet started, it didn't take long for the planet to start to heal, did it? For the animals to come back, the birds, the rivers cleaning up, the air pollution. It didn't, like, within a week, things were changing already. And I think people are changing. You've probably even noticed in your own life that conversations are changing. Family dynamics are changing because we're learning to relate to each other because we have to. We're thrown back together in pods of family or friends that we probably haven't done in millennia, just really be with each other at that area. Because it feels to me when I'm out in the world and I'm traveling that there's just, the fear is palpable. There is so much fear. So I'm calling the coronavirus a fear virus. We've got a fear virus running and we need to stop it. And the only way to stop the fear I mean, fear and faith are on the same spectrum. Fear is over here, faith is over here. It's the same thing. Fear is just faith negative. That's all it is. It's a negative use of faith. So we just need to get the positive use, and that's where I'm at right now. Is the positive use of my conviction of what I believe has changed at a deep level. Like it's just I'm not there anymore. The fear, and really, I've had people tell me for a number of years yet since I started going to Africa. So going to Africa was the first step in preparing me for my next step into a bigger audience in the world, because I've learned so much there and continue to about how to do this and how to be vulnerable. So when I'm teaching classes in Kenya, I've had to learn to teach differently. I don't teach the same way I used to teach because I can't. I have to be with them in a different way. And I had to learn how to be with them. So in our classes, we go to such a deep, deep level of vulnerability and the safety that we build, because we're not up here on the surface just dealing with manifesting things. We're dealing with life issues, because people in a third world country, they don't have many things. And so they're not about the things, they're about changing their life. And they don't just want change a little bit. You know, I look at us privileged North Americans and we say, oh, well, we want to change. Really? Really, do we really want to change? We've got it pretty sweet. Well, right now we're being forced to change because all of this stuff around racism is up. It's forcing us to change. So I think we really, really do want to change. And we've attracted this, and we've attracted COVID exactly to do this, to combat the fear and to move into faith, into the conviction of who and what we are as human beings and the power that we have to transform ourselves, our lives, and our world. That's what I think is going on globally. And it is a global movement. It's global because everybody's got it. And we're not the only society that doesn't delve deeper. I think every society does that, you know, and it is time to go deep. Time to go deep.
So I'm aware of the time. The only other thing that you wanted to talk about was about how there's so much synchronicity going on in your life right now. Like we're talking about the house, and they offered to store things for you. But the point behind that is that you're used to doing things yourself and being the one that's in charge and doing that. And now you're having to be here in this place and just receive. And it's amazing how much you are receiving.
Well, and that's, again, one of the things that my core issues, and I'm actually going to talk about, because we're out of time today, that's a whole other conversation I'm going to have not next week. But anyway, I have been a doer. I am a doer. I've always been a doer. And people say to me, you know, I'm tenacious and give Connie a job. If you want a job done, give it to Connie. She'll get it done. That's what I'm known for, is getting things done. And I'm a great organizer. I set up systems. I do all of that really, really well. And now I can't do any of that. And I've had to be letting go of the center and the foundation and delegating. And before, I would have struggled with that. Pat knows. Pat was on my board in Kamloops for years. She gets it. Michelle's on my board in Canada, so she gets it. Like, but I'm just not there. I'm allowing people to just take it and run with it. It's like, here's what I do. You go do it. And they're loving it. They're loving having that, and they're loving taking it over. So here I am in this place of being an absolute doing all of my life. And I'm literally, for the last 2 days, laying in my bed, and I cannot move because I've got little drainage sacs in the ankles of my feet that are draining the fluid out of my body, because the fluid is building up. It doesn't build up in the cells, so they can't give me a diuretic or move it out to the liver. It's actually fluid in between all the cells. So I'm like puffed right up. And so the only way he could get rid of it, he tried to put, or he didn't try, he did. He put these little wee tiny butterfly needles one in each ankle, and then I'm on a 45-degree angle with my legs pointing down. So all of this fluid from up here is all going down to my ankles and flowing out. So all of this fluid is leaving. So that means I can't even roll over. I cannot. I'm literally in one position, and this is day before yesterday it was put in. So all day yesterday and all day today, and it may even go longer. I can't even get out of bed. I have to use a bedpan. I mean, literally, I can do nothing for myself. I can't wash myself. I can't move myself. I literally can't do anything. So it took me to this point of literally being stopped to do anything to get this, to just be. And I was sharing with Michelle this morning, I said, and what surprised me yesterday is how okay I am with that. Like, I'm okay. I'm not impatient. It's like, well, this is what's happening. This is for my highest good. I feel great. The water's leaving. And I just, I have to call the nurse for every little thing. It took me a couple of days to get there. I was putting things off, and they said, no, that's what we're here for. You need something, you call us. And so they're literally at my beck and call 24/7 to do everything for me. So all I can do is be. I don't have another choice. But what amazes me is how I'm okay with that. And I'm not struggling against it. And my friend Donna, who's on the call, she's been to Kenya with me twice, so she knows well that she says, no, Connie's not just independent, she's fiercely independent, and protect my independence and defend my independence. And I've done that all my life, and it's gone. It's just gone. I didn't have to struggle with it. It's just not there. Amazing to me. Everything is just effortless. It's just there. All those issues that I've worked with for years are just there, healed.
I think that's a wonderful place to wrap up for this morning.
Yes.
I agree.
That's a delightful note to wrap up on.
Thank you, Pat. Wonderful. So does anybody have any last comments? Oh, yes.
We're wrapping up.
We're wrapping up. I'm going to
for prayer.
We got to leave everybody hanging so they come again next week.
Okay, I'm just looking to see who I'm going to call on to do a treatment.
Maybe someone wants to volunteer. There's some wonderful folks here that are very capable of doing prayer treatment. Would someone love to have the opportunity to treat us out this morning? Kathleen would love to do that.
And Michelle, do you want to walk them through the end part, like the blessing part?
Oh, you want to do it that way too?
Yeah. What I really wanted last week was, and you had it on, your Zoom was on speaker view. If you could change it to gallery view so we get a picture of everybody doing it once.
Okay, so it is. All right, so Kathleen, because she is surrendered, she has a lot of still rules about how she wants stuff done. So.
And we love her.
So if you will just make a comment when you get to the realization portion that we all speak or claim for Connie, because it's a chamber of prayer is what she wants. So if you'll do the first two stages, but you have to actually invite us in the third stage, otherwise everybody stays silent. And what Connie wants is you to send her stuff.
A blessing.
And a blessing. So so when everyone stops, and if you'll finish out with Thanksgiving and release, we will have done it to Connie's formula.
It's all about me.
Okay. So I'll invite you all to join with me in consciousness and know that one power in presence is freely flowing revealing, experiencing, and expressing itself in, as, and through all of its creations. And so I know that it is flowing freely now, that life force of wholeness, that divine perfection, that blueprint is revealing. It is revealing in every realization. And so I know for Connie that each moment is the perfect unfoldment of the one universe. And I offer forth this blessing of wholeness, of knowing that in each moment there is that perfection that reveals and the continuation of the eyes to see it. And I invite each of the others that are here in this collective gathering to offer forth their blessing.
Their word of faith, knowing that all that needs to be revealed is
now
every moment,
experiences
hearing
and the
is
revelation, peace upon her, it's within her, close to her, and she's blessed in the highest with
knowing that this is her true love,
friend,
and that this is her
family,
experience,
students,
that God
love
loves
that
her
surrounds her,
always.
completely floods her now from all corners of the universe.
Great
She's lifted up on high, lifted up on high, and the healing work that she has surrendered to in this lifetime is now in full sway.
And so it is with a grateful.
So it is. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being with me today. Thank you for supporting this journey, this wherever we're going together, because I know you're all part of it. And I love you. I appreciate you, and it's a beautiful thing. And there will be next week another call, same time, same place.
Love you, Connie. See you later, Connie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.